15th May 1666. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj challenged the emperor in his court for disrespectful behavior and furiously left the court. The next day, Aurangzeb's elder sister Jahan, his Wazir Jafar Khan and Jaswant Singh met the emperor. "Who is this Shivaji, who comes here in your presence and behaves such rudely? If you ignore this, more such petty landlords will repeat this behavior. The news will reach in every corner that a Hindu behaved with such a defiance in your court. You should take some action." Listening to this, Aurangzeb ordered Siddhi Fulat Khan to take him to Rodan Das Khan's mansion. Rodan Das Khan was the commander of Agra. It was certain that once arrested at Rodan Das Khan's mansion, there was no escape from there. As soon as the order was issued, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was smart enough to know that a countdown had begun. He had to immediately plan and execute a daring escape from the clutches of a man who had not spared his father or his brother. What he did over the next 3 months is a great example of flawless planning and execution, which we will study today as a part of Timeless Management Techniques. Presenting episode 2, Flawless Planning, Escape from Agra. We begin our exercise with chapter 1 of the plan, which was to turn people who were against him in his favor. How did he do this? Perhaps by gifts, bribes, or promises of something else, but people in the capital who served the emperor are all seen suddenly vouching for a lenient behavior towards him. Take a look. On the request of Ram Singh, the Mir Bakshi, that is the paymaster of the Mughal court, Muhammad Amin Khan, met the emperor and requested him that Shivaji has come here under a solemn assurance of safe conduct. Hence, it would be incorrect to arrest or kill him. Would other kings in future believe you if you kill someone who has travelled the capital on your assurance? Bingo. The emperor said, "Tell Ram Singh to stand for his surety. If he escapes or does any mischief, Ram Singh will be held responsible." Thus, with a clever political trick, his impending death or prison was converted into a house arrest. Next, on the night of 15th May 1666, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj visited Ram Singh. He performed worship of a Shivling and assured cooperation to Ram Singh to secure his word with the emperor. The second person was thus won via a religious alliance. The emperor was no child. He was a cunning statesman. Perhaps on an afterthought, he issued a second order. Tell Ram Singh to take Shivaji to Kabul. This was a great predicament now. With no time to panic, in a cool and calculated manner, Shivaji Maharaj had to now detach himself from this new plan. And how did he do it? In this, he succeeded by bribing the Wazir himself, Jafar Khan. On 18th May 1666, he went to Jafar Khan's house and asked him to negotiate with the emperor on his behalf. Could you imagine? The Wazir of the opposing party is vouching to his king on your interests? What a convincing offer it would have been. Jafar Khan used all his weight in the court and obtained pardon for the offences, and also managed to rescind the order to send him to Kabul, and only to be kept in house arrest. By 25th May 1666, a 4-ringed security was now tightened around the house in which Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was arrested. On 5th June, the emperor found out that Shivaji Maharaj was able to move in and out of the house arrest. This infuriated him further, and he ordered Siddhi Fulat Khan to go and seize Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and kill him. Now brace yourself. Remember Jahan, the elder sister of Aurangzeb, who basically set the entire plan in motion by asking her brother to arrest Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj? Now she at once urged the emperor that Mirza Raja Jai Singh, who is your sincere servant, and since Shivaji Maharaj came here relying upon his assurance, if you kill him now, no one will have any faith in your word. What a master politician at play. What was promised to her to turn her to make this move is super secret that is lost in history. Whatever it was, it worked. The emperor cancelled the order. Thus, by winning over key people, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj had managed to save his life, avoid expulsion or prison time, and most importantly, buy time to plan his next moves. This brings us to our next chapter, planning the escape. On 8th June 1666, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj played his first move to send most of his men away. Shivaji Maharaj petitioned through Fulat Khan that he intends to stay in Agra but wants to send his men away as he has no use for them now, and they should be granted the dastaks, that is the travel permits to travel south. Most of these men were granted the travel permits, and soon his men departed Agra. Now it was time for him to make preparations for his move. About the middle of June 1666, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj petitioned Aurangzeb that he wants to become a fakir and live at Banaras. On hearing this, the emperor mocked him and asked him to be moved to the fort of Prayag as a prisoner. Bahadur Khan, the Subedar there, was to watch over him when he moves to Prayag. In the process, granting him dastaks, that is the travel permits, for his travel on the route to Prayag. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj now pretended of some illness and started sending out fruits and sweetmeats to holy men as alms and gifts. These were carried in large baskets. The guards on watch at first searched these baskets, but within a few days, as it became a routine, their suspicions were allayed and they became slack. His biographer, poet Kavindra Parmanand, was with him during his forced stay at Agra. So on and about 22nd of July 1666, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj gave him all the 3 elephants that he had, about 1,000 rupees in cash, and asked him to leave via a route from Rajputana. On 13th August 1666, the watch over Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was made even stricter. There was an order that he was asked to move to the mansion of Raja Vitthal Das. It was time. He knew that the time was running out and he had to make his moves, and so he did. 5 days later, on 18th August 1666, at about 7:30 am, the emperor received the staggering news that Shivaji Maharaj had escaped. How did he escape? His plan was now being implemented in this final chapter of his escape. Rewind back 24 hours earlier. On 17th of August, Hiroji Farzan, his trusted aide, who looked similar to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, wore his master's clothes and slept on his bed. His body was covered with a sheet, but his hand with Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's wristlet was left uncovered, so that it was clearly visible even from a distance. The baskets of fruit and sweets were made ready, as usual. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and his son Sambhaji sat crouched in 2 baskets in the middle. As usual, the porters carried the baskets. As they passed through the watch, the guards searched over 1 or 2 baskets and let the others pass without opening them. When they finally arrived at a secluded spot outside the city, Shivaji Maharaj and his son emerged and went off with few trusted officers who were waiting for them here. The eagle had broken his shackles and leaped towards home. The pieces of this grand puzzle unfolded over the next few days in Agra. On 20th of August 1666, Trimbak Pant and Raghunath Pant the Korde and 3 other ministers of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj were arrested by Fulat Khan in the house of Kishan Rai. Who was this Kishan Rai? Kishan Rai was the son-in-law of Pratit Rai. And who was Pratit Rai? Pratit Rai was the chief of imperial spies. With the help of the imperial spy master, that is the chief of the spies of the Mughal court, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and his men had managed to poach all the required information necessary for the escape. The route, the permissions that were needed, and the appropriate time, everything was planned to escape. The escape of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj followed with a slew of news. On 23rd of August 1666, Ibadullah Khan, the Faujdar of Narwar, saw 5 horsemen. When he inquired, they replied, "They are Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's men and they are going back south to their country." They showed the appropriate dastaks, that is the travel permits, with the seal of Muhammad Amin Khan, and hence they were let go. Next, a soldier came and said, "I saw Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj going and his son mounted on a camel going towards Firozabad." I saluted them and said, "How are you here, Rajaji?" He answered, "The emperor has seized all my property and now I am going to become a fakir, so I am going to Banaras." On 29th of August 1666, Mahabat Khan's agent from Dholpur reported that 2 envoys of Ali Adil Bijapuri had permits to depart from Jafar Khan, and along with them were 3 servants, 2 in white clothes and 1 dressed as a monk, and had 5 horses with them together. These men said that Pratit Rai had given them these men and 5 horses to be delivered to Bijapur. The pieces of this grand escape were falling in order. A furious Aurangzeb retired to his chambers. The final report reached him on 4th November 1666 that Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj had reached Rajgarh. His son, who was ill during the journey, died en route. This was the final act of the escape. After getting out of Agra, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj had gone north to Mathura and left Prince Sambhaji in the care of the relatives of his Prime Minister, Moropant. This served a triple purpose. His pursuers were thrown off by going in the direction opposite to the one which led to his homeland. He separated himself from his son to avoid attraction and detection, as everyone would be looking for a man and a child. Leaving the young prince behind also enabled him to move speedily. The report that his son had died on the way was a deliberate rumor spread by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to ensure safe passage for the prince, who was finally escorted from Mathura to Rajgarh by Kashi Trimal, Krishnaji and his mother Aiji. Remember Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's biographer, the poet Paramananda? He arrived at Dausa in Rajputana with elephants, sukpals, camels, horses, 40 men and a palanquin. He was detained there for a few days, but eventually managed to escape. He reached Maharashtra sometime later, since he was residing in Polatpur in 1673. Thus, with a flawless plan to dispatch his men and treasure down south, then managed to turn people in his favor, and finally managing to secure critical information from the Mughal spy master himself and the travel permits from the Prime Minister Jafar Khan, Shivaji Maharaj planned and executed one of the most daring escapes seen in history. There are infinite lessons to learn from this episode. Not losing patience, staying cool, staying ahead of the game, planning and executing one step at a time, information warfare, espionage, you name it and this has it. He had the vision, he had the guts, and he gets the glory. A true gem of a learning. Stay tuned and do subscribe to Historiography. Thank you.